Hey folks, how's it going? This is Iron Seagull here, back with another discussion video. So this is going to be inspired by some tweets from SimGuru Grant, but since those tweets often just end up being a platform for me to discuss at length about these topics, I'm not sure if it's really as applicable to use SimGuru Q&A in the title anymore. But yeah, SimGuru Grant was talking about sports and The Sims recently, so I thought I'd do a video focusing on that because I really do like having a lot of athletic sims in my game, and there's definitely more sports that I would like to see. In fact, I actually did do a video last year. It was part of my Sims 4 wishlist where I did a video all about wanting tennis in the game, and that will be one of the sports that we'll discuss. But we're actually going to discuss baseball first. So this is the first tweet where SimGuru Grant posts a picture of himself saying, "Happy Baseball Opening Day, Simmers. We are often asked to add sports to The Sims, and if I had my way, I would add baseball. So maybe it is for the best I rarely get my way. Go Giants!" I do think baseball would be pretty neat to see in The Sims, but I don't think it'll ever happen because, well, we're actually about to discuss that now. As Streefin Panda asks, some more sports would actually be nice though. And Grant says, agreed, but a football game is 22 people? Same with soccer. Baseball game is 18 people. Getting them to animate and act in a coordinated way is 100% not what our engine is designed to do. Just sorta mismatch. It might look super goofy. And I can definitely see where he's going with this, because this is something that I've thought about before, and I mean, if you've played any Sims game, not just The Sims 4, but any Sims game, you can see the AI with the Sims themselves can be pretty flawed, and that's just from controlling one Sim at a time. So just imagine having all of these Sims trying to coordinate and play a big sport like baseball or football or soccer together. That could just end up being a nightmare. I don't know if it would actually work well, even if they did manage to try it, because they would need some much more sophisticated AI for The Sims than they do right now. I don't know, I guess it would be nice to see those sorts of big team sports in The Sims, but I don't know if they could ever do it right, and I guess with the amount of work they might have to do, you might just be better off playing one of the EA Sports games. So, yeah, I think that could be better. And then Voodoo Cat asks, could we have rabbit hole sports? So Sims could go to baseball and get a nice moodlet, or bad if their team loses? Can't believe I'm saying this, but like in The Sims 3 when they went to the stadium, but please, for the love of Sims, don't bring back open world. And Grant says, I mean, yes, but shrug. And what I think Grant means by this is that sure, they could do rabbit hole sports, but would they be that interesting? Would they be worth the development time? And my answer personally would be no, because I just don't think having a rabbit hole sport activity would be that interesting, even if moodlets were attached to it. I don't know, it just seems kind of like an empty sort of experience. It's kind of interesting seeing people ask for rabbit hole activities now, because I remember back in The Sims 3, that was probably the biggest complaint, or easily one of the biggest complaints. Just whenever we got rabbit holes, it's like, oh no, it's a rabbit hole, we can't actually see what our Sims are doing. But yeah, I guess I would just rather have other sports that we can have our Sims play. And yeah, that probably would mean that baseball and football and soccer, at least in a full game capacity, would not be represented in The Sims. But there's just so many things you can do with this game that is supposed to represent real life. So sometimes it is a matter of, well, would this translate well to a game? Would it be that interesting and engaging? So I would rather them focus more on other sports where it wouldn't take so much coordination and a whole lot of just money put into AI and trying to really improve it just for this one section of the game. So I would love to see more sports in The Sims, but I'd rather them focus on playable sports that involve 1 to 4 sims at a time, and one of those would be some form of golf, because D. Khalil did ask about that, and Grant says, animation and rule set wise, this is a very good fit, but the world building aspect is challenging. A single hole would be our biggest lot ever. I can imagine that being very challenging because you probably would have to make an entire world that is themed around a golf resort, which would already be pretty niche, and then you would have all of these different lots that would be different holes. And if you could have only one hole per lot, then I think having a full 18-hole course would be out of the question. It would have to be 9. But then I guess maybe they could sort of do it, because with the jungle in Selva Dorada, they had it so there weren't nearly as many loading screens as there would be otherwise, because you have all of those hidden lots, and then some of them are blocked off from magic, so you can't go there that one time. But yeah, then most of the hidden places you can get to don't make you run into a loading screen, except for the temple and that hidden pool area. So maybe they could do something like that. I don't know, but I can imagine that would be a lot of effort to put in for something that maybe not a whole lot of people would like. But then again, I guess Jungle Adventure is kind of like that too, and golf, I guess, might have a bit more of an everyday gameplay sort of appeal than venturing into the jungle. So maybe that could be justified. If they did manage to make a golf game pack that was really fun, then yeah, I would totally be into that. It would take a lot of effort, but I can't imagine that being as tough as doing football or soccer or baseball. And especially if they could feature some kind of interesting stuff along with the golf resort, like being able to run hotels and just being able to build your own golf resort so it isn't just the golf holes the whole time, then I think that could be very interesting too. But there are 2 different forms of golf that I think are a lot more doable and have actually been done before in the Sims franchise. So what you're seeing right now is the driving range object that was included in the Showtime expansion pack for The Sims 3. And it's not like the coolest object in my opinion, but I thought it was still kind of interesting nonetheless. It was a nice option to put in parks, and I do like how you were able to check the individual high scores of each driving range. And it was kind of neat that even though you just see the ball fade into the distance, you can still kind of hear what the outcome is, because your sim might like hit an object and you'll hear like a thud and then they'll cringe a little bit. So there's still that sort of humor with it, even if it's not quite as realistic as you might think. Like, you don't see the ball land anywhere, but nonetheless there's still an outcome. So I wouldn't mind if the driving range was brought back, but there is one other alternative that I would enjoy even more than this, which is mini golf. If you remember The Sims 1 Making Magic, it did have that. It was a pretty minor feature in that pack, but they still had roughly a handful of different hole types with different obstacles, and I would love to see this back in The Sims 4. Especially if it was through a pack that involved dating, or maybe just appealed to the young crowd, like a university pack. And what I would really like to see this time around is that you could have a little bit more control over just the layout of the whole course. Like, be able to decide the order of the holes, so you can have your Sims start off at the easiest one and then move their way up to some more challenging ones towards the end. I think that would be pretty great. I'm not expecting 18 different hole types, but at least half a dozen I think would be pretty good. And actually, now that I think about it, it would be really great if kids could use these objects as well, so you can have a family night out playing a round of mini golf. I can't remember if kids could use the mini golf in The Sims 1, but it definitely would be nice if they could in The Sims 4. And overall, I think this would be more popular than the driving range. It's just a hunch, I don't really know for sure. but I can imagine a lot more people using this. And then Mooney Helmy asks for tennis, and Grant replies saying, "Love tennis. How amazing would it be to have Serena Williams in our game? She is so amazing." Yeah, that would be pretty interesting. I would love to see tennis. I will link my wishlist video for it in the video description below, so I don't feel like I need to talk as extensively about this as I did about golf. But tennis overall, I think would be really fun. We've had table tennis with previous Sims games, but while I wouldn't mind having table tennis back, I would really love to see the actual court tennis where you can play singles or doubles. And tennis is not something that we've had in The Sims before, so it would be a nice opportunity to bring in something fresh that we haven't already seen. And I think what's easily the best opportunity to bring in tennis is university, because then that could really kind of be a new activity for the jocks to do, and it could be a nice way for your Sims to bond as well, since tennis does have that team sort of aspect if you play doubles, or if you just want to beat your worst enemy at tennis, you can do that as well. And the last thing I want to talk about is not a full-on sport exactly, but still a sporting activity. So Manny Mandrake says, yes, any group activity or things for kids to play, sports, games, tag, whatever. I always want new things that require too much animation. And Grant says, as someone who worked on Marco Polo in Sims 2 and tag later, it is such a pain to implement. Ugh, I'm getting nightmares testing it. And seeing how the water balloon activity turned out with The Sims 4 Seasons, I can see why, and I guess it is just one of those things where it does kind of link back a little to what I was saying about the big team sports like baseball, because it does require that sort of coordination. So that could be something that I can imagine being a little difficult with tennis as well, but hopefully they could do tennis. But with Marco Polo, yeah, I really like that activity in The Sims 2, and I really miss it in the later games, because I really do think that we could use more activities to do in the water. And that actually just reminded me of one more sport that I would like to see in The Sims 4, and that is volleyball. We did have it once in The Sims 1 through the Vacation expansion, but that was it. We never saw volleyball again in the later games. So yeah, that's kind of interesting that it's never been brought back since, but I would love to see volleyball either on land again like it was in The Sims Vacation, or it could be in the water, so that would be another water activity that you could have. I'd be cool with either. And if we ever get ocean swimming, I'd love to see swimming become more in-depth, instead of it just being like, oh, just swim around or do energized laps. Maybe we could have an actual swimming skill. That's another thing, another episode of my Sims 4 wishlist that I did in the past. And yeah, I think that would be really cool to have different types of swim strokes that have varying speeds. So yeah, that could be a nice way of changing things up, and also have the ability for toddlers to learn how to swim. I think that would be absolutely adorable. And I think that pretty much covers what I like to see with sports in The Sims 4 for the most part. There are some others that I'd like to see, especially winter sports, but unless you had them take place inside, then it would only make sense if you had seasons installed. But I would love to see some form of hockey, especially as a Canadian. I mean, yeah, just like with baseball, I would not expect the full-on hockey game to be represented, but maybe you could have a shootout set up just like we've had with the soccer net in previous games, so I wouldn't mind that. And I'd also like to see curling. Maybe that could be a really interesting sort of one, especially since we have bowling in the game already. Maybe they can kind of reuse some things that they did to get bowling in the game to do with curling. So yeah, that would be a really interesting sort of sport, I think, that's not really thought about as much as other sports, but yeah, it could be something pretty interesting to have in The Sims if it's well executed. And oh my gosh, I almost forgot about skiing and snowboarding. That would be another interesting winter activity to have. we did have that in The Sims 1 and The Sims 3 with the half pipe, but it would be nice to see the actual slopes implemented. But I guess they probably would have to have that be restricted to one world that is made to be a ski resort, maybe in a similar fashion to what I was thinking about with golf, because yeah, it would be very difficult, I think, even on a 64 by 64 lot to have a decent slope for skiing and snowboarding that's not over in 2 seconds. But feel free to let me know in the comment section below what sports you would like to see in The Sims. I'm pretty curious to hear your thoughts on that. And with that, be sure to leave a like or a comment or subscribe, because it lets me know that you really like my content and it helps you keep up to date more easily with my latest stuff from The Sims, Sonic the Hedgehog, and more. So I will talk to you all later, and have a great day. Thanks for watching!